Everyone, welcome to episode 10 of the No Zoo Lions podcast. I'm joined with Chad once again. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about a little sticky, as Chad calls them. And it's the TNT, which means takes no talent. And Chad, a few days ago, or a couple days ago, or whatever it was, you posted just a 3-minute video on that and had some really awesome points to it. So I actually want to talk about what it means to have takes no talent. Now, before we start, I have to say that he didn't say takes no effort. There is a big difference between that. So, Chad, welcome, and let's talk about TNT. Another little sticky saying that you have. Let's just get into it. I'm curious where this came from.
So it's something that I've had for a long, long time, and much like other formulas that we develop. So why are we developing formulas at all? And I call them formulas, and they could be sticky little sayings, and um, I think they're ways for us to focus on stuff that's important over time, over a duration, over a body of work, and not rely on being motivated or feeling like training or being excited to train, because there are times that might not be the case. And so we have them C over T equals R, consistency over time equals results. That was something Rob Follis uh, coined. It was something that we always preached to our athletes when we were coaching, is to be consistent and give that effort. And you got to come in on a continuous basis, and you can't train hard for 3 days and take 3 months off, come back for a day and take a week. It was that constant thing we were preaching to guys all the time. And then Rob and I, once in an offline conversation, came up with C over T equals R. And so anything like that, the rule of three, which we've talked about, no zoo lions, which we've talked about, all of these things are things that I use personally, and that I share with my children, with coworkers, with my athletes, with my coaches that coach with us, with officers that I train through PJJ. And they're just little life formulas that can help us understand where growth is and how we can improve. So the background is, some of these things I've talked about with athletes or with officers or with my own kids, or even tried to apply to myself for years, right? In my mind, the origin of the things that I come up with have a divine design from a God or a heavenly being. However, I'm not advocating that or preaching that in the podcast here. I think it is evidence for me of some personal beliefs I have. However, when I share it, like in this podcast, I'm just going to share the idea. But for origins, Ari, since you asked, that is one of the origins for me.
Mhm.
However, Rob Follis, for example, came up with very similar thoughts and ideas, and he did not necessarily relate it back to a source like that. For me, one of the things that I have always believed is that people inherently have talents, all of us. Everyone you can start saying, okay, well, that person's got talents. And I would define talents as just inherent things that they seem to be good at. Maybe they're naturally strong. Maybe they're naturally athletic. Maybe they're not athletic, the lack of that talent. Maybe someone is good genetics and they look good. Maybe someone seems to be really smart. They have this penchant for picking things up rapidly. Other people pick things up over time with repetition. Everyone's a little different, right? I don't think anyone would argue that.
Mm.
So we have these talents. Then how do we grow? Well, if it's only based on being talented, if success or growth is only based on being talented, then um, that can be pretty tough, depending on if you kind of won out in that category or if you didn't win out in that category. Now, if it is a divine design, that's a crappy design, because basically the person who designed it is saying, hey, you're going to be successful and you're not, and you're going to be kind of, you inherited it or you didn't.
Mhm.
I believe that the talents we are given are unique to us, but they ultimately aren't the key to us being successful or having an impact, uh, both ourselves in personal growth and with others. I believe what makes the impact is when we take the talents we have and we do all the things that take no talent. Now, I've seen this expressed several times by coaches. It takes no talent to show up on time. It takes, many times I'll list it out. And I've done the same thing over the years. When I think of things that take no talent, I'll give a couple, and Ari, as you listen and think, you can give a couple
Okay.
for things that you've seen over the years, and we can relate it directly back to the training room. Okay.
Okay.
So for me, it takes no talent for you to show up consistently over time. That doesn't take talent. That just takes a commitment to do it. It takes no talent for you to be a safe training partner. What are some things you've seen of students who go from wherever they were when they came in through the door, talented or not,
Mhm.
and you see growth in them? What are the things they are doing that are not talent specific?
Taking care of their partner or realizing that they wouldn't have jujitsu without having other people. It's not a solo endeavor.
Right.
While it is, yes, it isn't
Yes.
no, because we need each other. So, one of I kind of say this, I say, if you hurt your partner and you do something careless, not an accident, but you do something careless and you hurt them, you are out as long as they are out. Right. And I've never had to enforce that, thank goodness. But it's kind of one of those things. So I think that takes no talent to care about the other person on the mat room and realize that it's a joint venture there.
Yep. Another thing, can someone take critique? Can they take critique? That takes no talent. Um, can someone be quick to have gratitude for their teammates, for their coaches, for a place to train, for the ability to train? That takes no talent.
Yeah.
Can someone think of the well-being of the group before they think of their own well-being? That takes no talent. Can someone think of featuring someone else and letting someone else be featured or be out in front? That takes no talent. The things that take no talent, when you take those things and then you merge them with the talents you inherently possess, you begin to see growth in that individual. Conversely, I could have someone that does not do, that is very talented, that won't show up on time, that when they show up, they're about themselves. They really don't care about what you need in the training session. They're going to try to extract what they need. If
Mhm.
they perceive that a coach features someone other than them, they're threatened or they're bothered. If they get to teach a bit, if someone else gets to teach or gets on some kind of feature through the group, they take offense. Um, those are the kind of things you could be super talented and be a complete liability and have no growth. And honestly, the people I see burn out many times are the people. If you're not going to burn out and you're going to train consistently over time 40 years, you're going to have to do the things that take no talent. You're going to have to embrace them. You cannot be all about you. You cannot do only your thing and be successful year after year after year in really anything. Not in a relationship, not in parenting, not in finances, not in, there's really nothing
Mm.
that I can see that you're going to be um, long-term successful. You're going to burn bridges, you're going to burn down relationships and people. Like you said, you need other people, whether you want to need other people or not.
Yeah.
In law enforcement training, you need other people. Have you ever had a student who doesn't take no talent things, shows up on time, has interest in what you're teaching, is coachable, is a good teammate? Have you ever had a single one that didn't improve from whatever talent level or level they were when they came through the door? Have you ever had a student who displayed takes no talent characteristics and then they just didn't get better? They just
No,
got worse over
no,
time.
they all got better. Every single,
All
all of them, without exception.
without exception. So I don't care where this comes from. It is a thing. It is a thing. And so the perseverance thing, going back to that, I think there are many times, and this is a core part of some of the mental health things that happens in law enforcement. I think people may need to get some help sometimes if they really feel like they can't persevere. And now we're talking about a life issue,
Mhm.
not just a training issue. I feel like I can't persevere or overcome this hard time in my life. The greatest stories are written about average people with average talent who showed take no talent
Mhm.
characteristics consistently over time and then accomplish things well beyond what it appeared their grasp was. Um, and I include me in that. I
Yeah.
was my parents. I had a very loving mother who was loving up to the time she passed. My birth father left me at about 3.5 years old and didn't come back for like he walked out the door and didn't come back for 20 something years. My mom was a single mom with multiple children. Um, she didn't have a career. She meets a great guy after about a year in, a little bit under a year, and they're married just after a year from her divorce from my birth father. And this dude raises me. And this dude's a phenomenal guy, right? But we're poor. We're very normal people, grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, didn't have a martial arts background, obviously wasn't in law enforcement. I eventually joined law enforcement. So when I talk about like persevering and then achieving things that nothing says I should be able to achieve. Um, my mom remarries. I got this great guy who raises me, but we're still average people to low income, growing up in America, in Phoenix, big city, Southwest US. Nothing really standing out. I've got to struggle to even get into college. I go to a smaller D2 school. I go to a junior college and then a D2 school. I'm not like knocking the doors off going Ivy League. I come from these great things. I
Yeah.
start out as a cop. I have no DTs. I have no MMA, no jujitsu. And I start within a year, I figure out, well, I got to do something to get better because I know the pattern to get better at COT equals R. I hadn't quantified it yet, but I was already doing it.
Mhm.
I know that's what it is. I've always been kind of that kind of a guy where I know that consistency is good, and I know that pursuit of a goal is good over time. So I'm doing that even though I haven't formalized it or taught it. I start training jiu-jitsu MMA. By 2000, I realized everyone should be doing this, and almost no one is. And I just never stop doing the things that take no talent to do. I'm still undefeated in the UFC. I never made it. I'm not that level of guy. I've never won a world title. I haven't won pans. I've coached at very high level, but once again, way beyond what I should have coached. Right? You could argue, but I'm good at it, and I was very successful. And the guys who do that for a living accepted me because I produced results. Well, how did I produce the results? It wasn't because I was an Olympian. I've coached dudes who fought in the Olympics, who competed in the Olympics. I've coached dudes who were better athletes than me, far better, to great success, right? Well, how did I do that? Well, I just kept doing things that take no talent and not stopping. And so now I have this return that's an aggregate return after years of doing this that doesn't even measure up. Like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is from Brazil, it's not even from America. I
Mhm.
don't have a history of martial arts. How
Mhm.
do I become arguably a decent figure in the coaching world and a decent figure in the police jiu-jitsu world? Decent meaning having some acclaim, right? How do I do that? Well, I only do it through takes no talent stuff. And I just don't stop.
Okay.
And and it's genuine. I'm not faking. Like, this is it. This is
Yeah.
what you're gonna get. And I'm aware that there are other really talented dudes out there. And there are other talented dudes who also do take no talent crap. Here's what's awesome too. You slowly connect with other guys. Once you start having some success because you consistently apply this stuff, over time you slowly connect with other guys who are like you. And that's happened for me.
Yeah.
So now I've got these phenomenal connections, which makes me stronger. And now 30 years later. It's 1998, 1999 to now. And now it's like, you know, I can go up into Canada and give a 4-day class, and a bunch of guys are going to show up. And after I leave, they're still going to teach my stuff. I can go to Kentucky and teach a group of people, and they're going to keep teaching my stuff. And I say my stuff just because it has my name on it. It's not, these are discussions you and I have had.
Yep.
In fact, let's think about that, Ari, and I haven't prepped you with this question, but if you do takes no talent things in your chosen field, and in this field, we're going to say jiu-jitsu and specifically jiu-jitsu for police. How does consistent takes no talent application allow you to be successful in this arena of jiu-jitsu for police? Like, what things have you done in the TNT model that have come back to you and now served you well, and now you're able to share them with others? Like, how has it influenced your journey?
I think it takes no talent to listen to those who came before you and learn from their mistakes. It's been a good one in my life, to be honest.
Yep.
So by doing that, that's allowed me to avoid some pitfalls. And that means that I didn't have to spend 3 years doing it and finding out that it was incorrect. I could just watch someone and actually listen and go, okay, there's some points there, you know, say for you, Chad, you say, hey, this is a road you don't want to go down. And like, okay, I trust you. I'm not going to go down that. So that's one, listening to people who've failed. That's helped me. I would say that the other one that's really helped me is, God, we talked about this so many times, but that perseverance and just, you know, it can't rain all the time. So you just sometimes have to hunker down, and it is hard. But I said when before we started this podcast, I said success is the best revenge. You know, I've had so many people in my life said, you can't do it, you suck, you don't have the talent, you're not a world-class person, all these things. And I never pretended to be just like you.
Yeah.
And I think I'm doing okay. And really, the secret for me is, this is to paraphrase a quote, but it's amazing what you can do when you don't want to take the credit.
Yeah.
And I actually want to promote other people. And
Yeah.
that's the whole thing about Invictus. That's why I love putting stuff out. If you fall into my kind of path of like, you know, similar moral outcome, moral outlook on the world, that's something I will push you. And that takes no talent.
Well, tell me, you told me earlier, or in a conversation we recently had, you told me a few rules you even have about former instructors or guys that you've trained with and developed bonds with in regards to swimming and different metaphors. Can you recall the conversation? Is
Yeah.
that
So yes.
and you told me you had a couple points in regards to people that you're connected to and how does that manifest for you? And I think there's a takes no talent characteristic, by the way.
So you're referring to a quote which my instructor Keith Owen used to say, and he used to talk about Pedro Sauer, who was his instructor, and it was never drown the man who taught you how to swim. Now there's a lot in that statement, and you can take it any way you want. And if it hurts or it stings, there's probably a reason why that stings. If it doesn't hurt and you agree with it, then, you know, there's a lot to unpack in that statement. And it's true. Like, I'm very grateful to the people who have helped me out. And I will always continuously, this is me personally, will talk about them, tell them where I learned this stuff from. I didn't invent it. You know, I mention, and it's not hero worship, but I mention you in class almost every day. I got this from Chad. I got this from Chad. Or I'll say, I got this from Rob, or I got this from Jerry. I got this from Jason. Like, I do it all the time. And for the reason I'm so grateful, and you said this previously, you have to have an attitude of gratitude. And I am immensely grateful for Keith to teach me jujitsu. How I actually teach today is I am a cheap copy of him. And then I grab from other people, and then we create our own thing. So that's what it is. Never drown the man who taught you how to swim, because he got me to where I am. And my hope is, now that he has passed, that I will be able to take this and pass it on to my students as his legacy. And that's important to me. If you don't care what I'm saying right now and you're listening to podcasts and you're like, oh, go screw yourself, right? That's fine. It doesn't matter because it's my journey, it's not yours.
Yeah, some of the other things that I think you said that are really that can be really impactful for relationships long term, right? It takes no talent to be loyal, and that doesn't mean that's the only person you do business with or take
Sure.
classes. I don't mean loyalty like, okay, I belong to 1, 2, 3 jujitsu school, and loyalty means I can't train with anyone else. That's not loyalty. That's kind of weird culty stuff. I don't mean loyalty in that regard. I mean loyalty in the regard that I truly want you to do well to the point where I'm going to encourage and show what you're doing that's good to other people. I'm going to openly show it. I'm going to talk about
Yeah.
it. I can have people think, I believe sometimes people get confused and think that C4, CPJJ, and Invictus are the same, or that both of us own both of them.
Right.
They don't realize that you don't have any ownership in mine and I don't have any ownership in yours.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter to us. There is no deal between PJJ and Invictus other than a deal of, there's a lifelong bond that is more important to me than any deal. Like I could care less.
Yep.
I want to be affiliated with good people. I want to have relationships with good people. And good people are people who 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 want to win. Like I want to be affiliated with people who are trying to move the needle,
Yep.
who are going to do the TNT things that, like, for us, for you and I, it's become a passion to change the way our profession trains and to change the way we approach custody issues. That's become a passion of ours over the years. And I want to win. I want to change it. Like it's a thing. But, and there are dudes that are not directly affiliated with me or with you who have a hand in that change. But some of the issues are going to be TNT things.
Mhm.
Things that take no talent are the things that are going to bind me to people. Innovation, when you have takes no talent application over time, plus talent, whatever talent you have,
Yep.
and you see growth and you see things going forward, that is where it happens. But you still have a foundation of where you came from. So if you're one of these guys who says, I don't come from anyone, I just magically am amazing, like that's not possible. And if you are, like you're so far behind guys who are amazing because they've come up under other great guys and learned from them. There's just nobody who's that way. And so when guys sometimes and listen, these things change over time because maybe someone has a bad experience or has a bad breakup with whoever
Yeah.
they were with, whatever.
Yeah.
I can understand that. And there's no reason for you to necessarily promote or whatever. But I would never deny. I have guys that I trained with or trained under or affiliated with jujitsu wise. My jujitsu affiliation has changed multiple times, mainly because I never owned the gyms. And so we're affiliated with this team, and no, we're affiliated with this one, and now we're affiliated with this one, and now we're affiliated. I think about 4 changes, and some of them back to other two similar teams over the years. But I don't have any hatred for the team that I started with.
Yep.
I think they're amazing. I speak about them all the time. It was Matt Thornton and Straight Blast Gym. Listen, I started out under Matt Thornton, and I consider him a guy who's impacted me positively to this day. He's my blue belt was from Chris Howder when I was still affiliated with Matt, and it was Chris Howder and Michael Chapman was my main jiu-jitsu coach at that time.
Yeah.
Rob Wallace had already left and opened Team Quest with Randy, and Rob wasn't even training in the gi for a number of years. So my white to blue, we started under Hickson. There was a disagreement between Matt and Hickson, and I don't think it was bad. I don't want to talk out of school. It just was a difference over training Americans to fight Brazilians in the UFC, from what I understand.
Mhm.
So that wasn't even a bad breakup. Hickson just felt like at that time, this was in the early days. This is when Randy first started fighting. And Hickson's position was he didn't want his affiliates to teach Randy to fight Brazilians. And so, from what I understand, they just agreed to separate. And I'm not going to speak much more on that, other than I will say this: if it was bad, Matt Thornton never, in my experience, has ever talked poorly at all. So if it was bad, I don't know it. And I was in the gym after it happened, and they changed over to Hegan. And then Chris Howder became kind of an upline for the belts at that
Right.
time in that system. So then I went directly to Mike Chapman when Rob left, more for convenience, but this is an example of kind of takes no talent in my mind. I went under Mike Chapman, and then they separated from Matt Thornton and Straight Blast Gym, and they became Impact. Now then Impact had two main guys, Mike Chapman being one of them, who's one of the best dudes on the planet, is a take no talent guy. Not that he's not talented, he's immensely talented. But when you are immensely talented and then you do the TNT stuff with your students and with your affiliates, it just makes you so solid that it's ridiculous. So Mike Chapman, my guy to this day, his partner splits off and opens a different gym and a different affiliation. There's no well, there could be animosity once again. I don't know about it
Mhm.
because to their credit, I haven't heard either guy talk about the other guy. I'm sure they have feelings for one another that are, they're not super happy at times,
Mhm.
but they spend time doing the things they ought to be doing, and they spend little time on that. So over the years, I've had these different changes. When I moved to Vegas, I trained directly under one school. Uh, Good dudes, Mika. Uh, um, Mika and the owner have an argument and a fight. They have a falling out. We switched to Rob Drysdale.
Mhm.
I've coached under Rob Drysdale. I chose to make the change to go over to Couture's when the gym I was coaching at, the owners decided they didn't want to be in the gym business anymore.
Mhm.
And I landed right back at Couture's with Randy and with Rob and with all the guys that I started with way back in the day. Because I believe, like I'm just working through this right now talking to you. I believe that door opened because I'm a take no talent guy. When Rob and those guys left, I didn't crap on them. I
Yeah.
didn't say anything bad about them. So then when it came full circle and now I am a black belt, now I am coaching at a decent level in Vegas. I'm already coaching athletes in the MMA world. Suddenly I landed at Extreme Couture. Well, why does that happen? Because I believe because I conduct myself in a certain way, and it's not bragging. It's a lifestyle that I think is conducive to having good relationships.
Yeah.
I think if you begin to say things like, and these make no sense to me, if your marketing is we are the only one, or we are so far elite, or we have changed the whole game, and you're in a game that's been going for a long time,
Yeah.
you're fairly new in the game. I don't know what you're talking about. That would be like me. We talked before. We've had a conversation. That would be like me being an NFL franchise and saying that there are no other NFL franchises. When you reach certain levels, it'd be like me being a UFC 145 pounder and me saying there are no other UFC 145 pounders. I can say I'm championship level. I can say I'm elite. I can even say I think I'm the best UFC 145 pounder. But I'm in a class of people who are at a certain level. In the training community, when I see guys say, we're so elite, nobody else is doing what we're doing, and you actually know where they came from, it's like, what are you doing?
Okay, so let me challenge you on
Kind of
that.
odd.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you. If I have a platform, why would I use my platform to advertise you, who's in direct competition with me? This is because this is how I think, right? So of course I'm not going to mention you. I'm only going to mention the one, which is me, because I need to get as many eyes on me as possible. That's a typical thing in marketing. Now, I obviously think, I mean, that's coming from scarcity, thinking that there's not enough to go around, which we know that that's not the case. But Do you think that's a motivating factor for a lot of these companies?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I do. Um, there's no doubt. And I think there's more than one way to think about anything. Just because I
Right.
think a certain way doesn't make it the only way to think. But I consider really elite people in fighting to be at a certain level. But there are people, I don't even mind just posting your own stuff. What I mind is pretending like there's not already existing teams that are at that level, I guess for lack of a better word, existing companies. And so I think I think for me that's where the difference is. It's like I'm very open that I think PJJ uh, is fully sufficient. Like you could train with us and go throughout your whole career and not need to train somewhere else. However, I also know I'm amongst good dudes, and there are other really good dudes out there that you could benefit from training with. So because I come from that perspective,
Mhm.
then I think that is it's not hard for me to think. You know, Extreme Couture MMA is a great MMA gym, and we are one of the best MMA gyms in the world. Period. Hard stop. There's no doubt. It's the numbers bear it out. But we're not even the only pro level MMA gym in Vegas, and I will openly say there's other good gyms in Vegas. And so you're never going to see Extreme Couture say we are the only ones, or it's just weird to me. It's a weird dynamic.
What is the advantage of an elite company to mention someone else?
I think that number one, those kind of ties can show that you're in certain companies. Someone else may look or train at that other company and have a high regard for them.
Mhm.
So someone else might be an officer survival guy with Rob McGowan.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned Rob. And what that has always consistent. The reason I started doing that is because I feel like I've received from Rob and I'm going to get back. So it's a takes no talent issue for me first, for a marketing issue, for a business issue.
Okay.
So Rob and I have a relationship. That relationship's important to me. I
Yeah.
don't mind showing the way Rob's doing something. And there are times I even say, hey, we do something similar. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I say the way Rob McGowan is teaching this, you couldn't get it better. Wash, rinse, repeat, go do this. And I'll show Rob saying, I'll also put Rob's description of it if depending on how I copied it, if I can figure out how to put it up there. So it's Rob's description, right?
Mhm.
So I'll post about Rob. From a pure business standpoint, I don't know if anybody uh, teaches that or doesn't teach that, right? A lot of people would not teach that. I would assume. I'll go to a guy who does teach that in a couple minutes. He's wildly successful. I really love his approach because it corresponds with mine.
Okay.
But I started doing that for Rob, not for marketing. I'm not doing takes no talent stuff for marketing. I'm doing it because I truly think Rob McGowan has value. I think he's an awesome dude. And even if I make not a penny, I think cops should train with him. And so I'm going to put it out there for about Rob. What I found is that guys who like Rob start following me.
Okay.
I've found a direct correlation and they start having conversations with me. And then I found that they'll ask Rob about me and he'll even message me. Go, hey man, one of my guys asked about you the other day. He says you're coming out our way to do a class. I told him to go to the class. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And I found that I actually do gain followers and I do gain acclaim by mentioning Rob. So I didn't start doing it for that reason, but that has been a byproduct.
Okay.
One guy that I do trust for business development that I've read a few of his books, and I realize it's a book, but Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
And Gary says, be very open and put stuff out with no expectation of any return. And that has been what has kind of fueled that. Number one is I want to do it. I think it's the right thing to do. When I first started doing it, I got told it's a bad idea. I got told by other people, oh, don't do that. It's a bad idea. I have never been weakened by a strong relationship with another strong person in this industry. That has never made me weaker. By another strong individual that has TNT characteristics. If you don't have TNT characteristics, all that happens is eventually that's going to decide whether I'll ever even do business with you. If people show me that they don't have that, like that's the end of that. And we're pretty much done. And that's not to say you couldn't do this more than one way. The benefit for me is I was doing this before I even thought about making money off of it.
Right.
I was making, in fact, I was for sure not making money, and I was for sure not getting a financial return.
Yeah.
The other thing I do that people actually hit me up and said, you should stop doing that. And marketing people who weren't necessarily cops running a training company, but who know me from like church, for example, who follow me because they know me from church.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have the C4C operator page only, and then I made the C4C JJ page. So I would post technique after technique after technique. And these guys who were marketing guys would go, hey, I think that's a bad idea because no one needs to train with you. They could simply follow you. They could never pay you a dime. You are literally putting out so much stuff a dude could train on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Ever paying you anything. And so guys who have that marketing idea, and that is a way to do it, by the way. I'm not even saying it's not a way to do it. I don't think it's the right way to do it, though. And what's happened is I've gotten such a massive return from just posting and putting stuff out there, from taking the Gary Vee approach, which aligns more with who I want to be. And by taking that approach and just giving stuff, putting it out there, sharing it if people can benefit from it, great. That has been a massive return. I'll give you another example of a guy who is pretty prominent in the jiu-jitsu world, who I believe exhibits TNT values, and that's Michael Zenga with BJJ Fanatics. So if the guys listening to us have ever gone on to BJJ Fanatics for an instructional, whether it be Gordon or John or whoever, me, there's a number of guys up there. There's literally hundreds. I mean, if you can learn visually and buy an instructional, you got to have a BJJ Fanatics account. These are some of the best people in the world. But Michael Zenga and I, he put out an ad way back in the day, pre-COVID, for self-defense jiu-jitsu. If you really use jiu-jitsu in fights, I want to hear from you. I literally say, hey, can I call you on the phone? I send him a return and I say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. I use it all the time.
Yeah.
For sure, I could do an instructional. And we have a phone call. I'm in Utah. My family's about to walk into a restaurant. He says, hey, can you call me right now? I tell my wife, hey, I got to call this guy. She knows how I am. She goes, okay, come in when you're done. I have this phone call with Michael saying, we've never met each other. He says, this is what our company is. This is what we want to do. This is what him and Bernardo were starting out. And it's mainly Bernardo videos.
Yeah.
And somebody else. I can't remember who they had at that time. And I tell him who I am and I tell him what I do. And we have this phone call. We get to know each other. We have a subsequent touch a little bit later where we get to know each other. He says, man, I like you. I believe in what you're doing. I'm going to fly you to Boston. We do our first video together, first instructional. And we're around each other. And it's pretty quickly apparent that here is a guy who's got a TNT lifestyle, who has some talent, but Mike Zenga is not the most talented, physically athletic dude you're ever going to meet. I'm not talking trash about him, but he's not. Mm-hmm. And now he's gone on to have the most successful BJJ type video business. And as a competitor, he's become wildly successful.
Yeah.
And actually won worlds. Now, as in his age group and all that, but still something I never accomplished. I competed for a while in jiu-jitsu and never won worlds. He won worlds. So the guy's become an excellent competitor, but he's made all these relationships. Mike Zenga and I did our business on a handshake, and we still don't have a formal contract. Now, I live in reality. You should probably have contracts with the business deals you do. Like, I'm not opposed to that. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's what kind of person he is. We've never signed a contract. That guy sends me my cut every month, and he's always open. You can look at the books. I don't ask to look at the books
Mhm.
because I've gotten to know him over the years, and it's he lives that lifestyle. So, kind of going back to your beginning, Mike Zenga's made a business of featuring other people. Um, I believe I'm in a league of other prominent people, but if you're in a league of one, I just don't know how good your league is. Like, if you truly believe you're the only guys doing XYZ, and
Mhm.
there are other guys already doing it, you know, and especially if you've never been a cop and you have a training company and you think you're uber elite over cops who actually train. Like, if you believe you have discovered the answer to law enforcement problems way beyond what a guy who trains to the level where he's a black belt in jujitsu and he's a black belt in policing. And if you actually believe you've developed a curriculum that is not at that level, because that's one argument for any training company. Hey, we are an elite training company. Our stuff works. We're really good. I think that that's a positive message. If your message is our stuff is better than everybody else's, there's nobody who can even approach us, and you don't even do the job. I don't even know how that would be physically possible.
Mhm.
I don't know how you would think it was possible. So then to me, it just becomes marketing. And so now it's about dollars.
Mhm.
So I guess that's where the cutoff is for me. I can't argue that there can be more than one way to think of this.
Right.
So as you think of all that, what are your thoughts on what is the value of highlighting someone else for you? Invictus does it all the time.
Yeah,
So
and I think it's a throwback to when I started my very first company, which is called Submissions 101 in 2006. So,
hey, for all our listeners, I was a regular, not contributor, but consumer
yeah.
of Submissions 101. Go ahead. You would do
So
some stuff I couldn't do. I was like, I don't know what the crap he's doing
hey,
there.
I can't do them now. I'm too old. So, yeah, I started having fun with it. And I'll be honest, there's nothing else out there. There literally was nothing else on YouTube. So, this is before the Gracie channel, this is before anything. And so I started to put things out. And then I realized it's like, it's not the Ari show, and it never was. And then I'm going to, hey, I'm going to feature this black belt. I'm going to feature this black belt. And that's what I started doing. So, although I haven't touched the Submissions 101 YouTube channel, there's still 700 videos on there and it features a whole host of people. So that was my gig. Now, this is before we had that you could buy videos online the same way. And did I miss the boat on making money on that? Yes. Do I care? No. Um, you live and learn, and I still don't regret it. A
I,
thousand.
I, I think there's a way to do both, right?
Yes.
But I think you can have business acumen and also be in a field where you feel like you have peers, right? And I don't think anything's wrong with that. I don't think anything's wrong. I think, and once again, it could come down to a life, the way you look at yourself, and maybe, and I might not even be understanding other people, but I don't understand how you could even feel comfortable saying that you are the only worthwhile
Right.
source. I don't get it. Like, that is a weird thing to me. Every single guy out there, every single gym out there, every single company out there came from certain people. They came from other people. They gained from other people. So this idea that anybody is the source, I don't get it. Like, you should have just been a black belt then. Like, or been an upper level, whatever. Like, how did you progress if there's not other people to thank?
You know, the funny thing about this, Chad, is, and I see it happen sometimes, that over time, people who are like that, they have a coming to Jesus moment because that's the only thing that comes up. But
Sure.
they think, oh wow, this is how it used to be. And maybe I was wrong back then. You know, I like in my 20s and 30s, there's an ego and there's that arrogance. And as you get older, some things change and you can have that moment. And you know, it's funny, I just saw Kit Dale talk about this in a really candid,
Really?
yeah. Kit had it was the realest video I've ever seen from him because he's a joker and I
Very
commented
much.
on it. And he basically said, you know, I'm trying to find myself, and there's things like my ego and la la la. And he was really transparent. And I was like, there it is, right there. You could see the moment where it changed. Doesn't mean he's going to change everything he does, but he realized something that comes to us at certain times in our lives. And I just really appreciated that. And it can happen for people. It's sad when it doesn't for those people, and they end up dying not realizing that.
100%. And dying right there. I mean, people say I take a lot of pictures and I put up a lot of videos, and that's true. Like that's not false. A lot of pictures, and I put up a lot of videos. I literally can feel it coming to an end. And there'll be a day when I can just sit in a chair and rock, and I can look back at the men that I shared time with and that were my teammates and that lifted me and they gave so much that we flew similar flags, we supported each other's flags. Those will be the days when I'm no longer fighting for the gig or fighting for the business
Yeah.
because that day is going to come for everybody.
Oh yeah.
But it no longer matters what if GST is teaching this class, or PJJ, or OSS, or EFC, or ShivWorks. When those days are over and you can no longer step into the fray, all you're going to have left is the relationships you created or you didn't. And that's it. And so you can go ahead and say, and go through this path on, oh, I'm going to go by myself. He didn't come up with it, but Rob or Bob Duffy, one of our guys in Wisconsin,
Mhm.
Bob Duffy says, "Hey, if you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together."
Yeah.
And far is a goal for all of us, right? And as I continue to go further in my mortal life, my ability to even be in the game is going to go away.
Yeah.
And one of the things I want to look back at is not that I was in the PJJ game, but that I was in the changing the culture of law enforcement game. And I have relationships. My PJJ relationships are priceless. They're awesome. But even Mike Bland, who coaches for us,
Mhm.
said to me, and Mike's someone I look up to. He was a partner. We worked together. He was eventually a supervisor in the unit that I served in after I left. But we were teammates. And I consider Mike uber accomplished. He's very good. And he's very good at a lot of things I'm not good at. So I've
Mhm.
got this immense amount of respect for Mike Bland. And we're one night might have been in South Dakota with Jay Reps, Mike Bland. We're teaching a course. And Mike looks at me and he says, "You know what's interesting about you?" And I don't know if there's a true statement, but I'm only sharing this because this is another reason why I do things the way I do them. It's not the reason why, but it's like an after effect. I'm not trying to create this, but it's happening. So this is good. And Mike looks at me and he says, you are one of the only guys who runs a thing that's pretty successful in our industry who regularly posts about other people." And he goes, "You post about your coaches, you post about Invictus, you post about Rob McGow, you post about this guy, that guy." He goes, "You will post about other people." And he goes, "And you post about us as coaches." And he goes, "I just don't see a lot of these other guys doing it that have a company. So
Mhm.
post of them teaching." And I'm not saying one company. He goes, "Think of all of them. There's very few companies or teams that post about dudes on the team." and not about whoever that team is, whether it's the ABC Jiu Jitsu team or the ABC training company. He goes, most of those other places, the guy who's in charge of that team is in every video. And he goes, you are not in a lot of the videos.
Mhm.
And he goes, that's rare. And I'm not even thinking of that. That's not it wasn't a strategy other than I think they're so cool. I want to share them. I think they're so awesome
Yep.
that, that Ari showed this sweep this way. I'm going to show it. I'm going to put Ari's name on it. I'm going to put Jason's name on it. Now, are they happening? Sometimes they're not happening in my event. They're happening in an Invictus event. Um, but and I'll post Rob stuff or Kerry Murakami or different people. It just really the only opposition I have is, and this is a little bit of pride, is if people post nobody else's stuff, like I'm not interested in posting yours. Like if you want to be a part of the league, the NBA doesn't post anything from guys who aren't NBA teams. So if you've designated yourself in a league of your own, and there's no other teams in your league, then congratulations, you're in a league of your own. The rest of us will keep crushing it and growing and doing our thing, and they will too. Like there's more than one way to do this,
Yeah.
but you ultimately get what you get. Consistency over time gives you a result, and you're getting the results you deserve, and hopefully they're the results you want. Why do we think this is important? Why even have this conversation? I would say to people who are coming up who are trying to establish a program either within your department or you would like to train and you'd like to move up in the industry, you're going to choose one of two paths. You're going to choose, hey, we're so amazing and we're going to renovate the whole industry and nobody else has anything to offer. Look at us. And that's a path. And people can do that with some success. If you're counting dollars as success, go ahead. And maybe it's success to them. I don't know. That's a path. That's a choice.
Yep.
Go ahead and do that. Isolate yourselves. You can do that. That's not a problem. But there is a whole host of people in the league that recognize that you're in the league and it means something to be at a certain level. If I make the NFL Hall of Fame and I play for the Cowboys and I meet a dude from the Redskins who's in the NFL Hall of Fame, we hug each other and we laugh and we have good memories. You can be elite and be in the league.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I would break it down. You probably have hockey examples of the same thing.
Yeah, a thing I wanted to add to that is, the white belts, the blue belts, the purple belts that are listening to this, that are police officers. One day, many of you are going to be in a position where you're going to own a training company. You're going to be carrying a torch of, maybe C4C, PJJ, or something else that is coming. Because I know it's going to evolve, and we are not the end all be all. There's going to be some tremendous stuff that is coming out all the time. So in 20 years, when Chad and I are no longer doing this, or anyone else who is currently around doing it, you're going to take the mantle and you're going to move forward. And those are the people that we meet at these events, that we talk, we network. And I think that the profession is in good hands because I've met some remarkable people doing this.
Yeah. And within us, we all know who does what. We all know who's who,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
because like it or not, you're not alone. We're in a big league.
we
And
are.
there's a lot of good dudes. We all know who's who.
Well, Chad, I appreciate you. Thanks very much for the philosophy lesson today, my friend. And remember, don't follow us, lead with us, and check us out at the nozoolions.com website. Take care.